Sam Bankman-Fried's trial is on pause until next week when prosecutors say they plan to rest their case on October 26th. Joining us now to discuss all the legal developments are CoinDesk Global Policy and Regulation Managing Editor Nick Day, along with CoinDesk's regulatory reporter Liz Napolitano. Welcome to the show, Nick and Liz.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. All right. Court is on pause. FTX's general counsel told jurors on Thursday, saying that he never approved the crypto exchange lending customer funds to sister firm Alameda Research. Nick, can you unpack some of the testimony we heard from FTX's general counsel before court went on this break?
Yeah, so on Thursday, we heard from Can Sun, who was the general counsel between 2021 and 2022. He talked a bit about the various, details of the case. One of the defense arguments has been that FTX's terms of service did not explicitly ban Alameda or let users know that Alameda would never be borrowing customer funds. And so, there wasn't any kind of misappropriation.
I think we lost Nick. He's frozen. Well, Liz. Yeah, Liz, they're going to throw it off to you while we get Nick back here. What have you found most striking about being inside the courtroom? What are we not hearing about in the news?
Well, I think in general, as reporters, being inside the courtroom is particularly insightful. There's definitely a certain air to it that you don't get just from watching the feed in the overflow room in the courthouse. When we're there, we can really observe the dynamic between Kaplan, who runs a tight ship in his courtroom, and Cohen and Everdell, who raised, tons of objections during the trial and who have been asking for tons of sidebars. And we've seen kind of how that creates some type of tension in the trial and how it's perhaps even informed the judge's attitude toward the defense, which isn't really great for Bankman-Fried. It's also cool because we've been able to observe the reactions of the jurors as well. And we've been able to see how the defense the strategies of the defense and prosecution, respectively, have been landing with the jurors. In some cases, we see them arguing certain things and, throwing around terms like, quant research firm or, crypto wallets or something like that. And we just look over the jurors and they're either, having just total looks of bewilderment on their faces or, looking at each other quizzically or, in some cases, we've just seen them nod off and almost fall asleep in the courthouse. So that's been really interesting to see.
So, because you're looking at the jurors, when you're not looking at the great artwork by Nick Day, who is the Picasso of our century, what exactly, what's hitting and what's missing? And if you had to guess, just based on facial recognition software in your mind, if you will, the reactions of everyone, who do you think is winning in this?
Right now, I think the prosecution is definitely doing a bit of a better job in terms of just breaking down what some of these really complex crypto terms mean. I think that it's, remember that this jury is composed of, people from various backgrounds, a variety of ages, young people in, their early 30s, people well into their 60s, some of whom are, I think one guy was a securities trader, and we have some people who, have never studied finance and people, who are working jobs in much different industries. So I think just the crypto terms that they've been using in the trial have been somewhat of a barrier that both the prosecution and defense have to overcome. And I think the prosecution has been doing a better job of defining those terms and asking the witnesses to do that as well.
And do you think that is in many ways kind of controlling the situation in a way the defense is not?
Yeah, I definitely think so. But at the same time, it almost seems like sometimes when the defense doesn't, ask the witnesses to define the terms that they're using, I'm almost wondering if they're trying to obfuscate the meanings of some of these things to kind of just hope that, jurors will just kind of gloss over this information and just, wait for the defense to present its case.
Nick, welcome back to the show. I got to get your take on the judge. We've heard about the judge becoming seemingly annoyed with the defense. This week, we heard that both the prosecution and the defense got a little bit of a scolding during the trial. I think that he called one of the witness testimonies a quote joke. What happened there?
Yeah, so Judge Lewis Kaplan has been, overseeing this case for most of this year. I think the way he's looking at this is you have a jury of 18 people, right? 12 primaries, 6 alternates, who are losing functionally, 6 weeks of their lives to this case. And so he's very protective of their time. And what we heard from this week, where we had 2 witnesses who, one of them was a former FTX lobbyist whose only job really was to read certain things that Sam Bankman-Fried had said, to Congress or sent to Congress, and details that were published on the FTX blog, basically just getting them on the record, but in such a way that, you didn't really need her to be the one to do it. And then you had another witness who was a Google employee whose job was to say, Google produced these records, and I am confirming that Google produced these records. He didn't know anything about the records. He was asked about metadata. He knew nothing about that. And so the judge was wondering why they flew someone in from Texas to Google employee, why they had someone else come in, why we spent, quite a bit of time on Thursday talking about these issues when they're all public records that you could really have just said, okay, well, these are things that the prosecution and the defense both agree are real records that were, said or created by these real companies. And so you don't need people testifying for them. And we saw a bit of that on Thursday come out with the judge, expressing his frustration at the fact that, yeah, we really did have someone who didn't know anything about metadata from Google come into the court and spend less than 20 minutes on the stand talking about how he doesn't know anything about metadata, but that is metadata there was metadata produced by Google. Pretty weird.
I want that job, by the way. The other thing, of course, is how we've been talking about also the defense and how are they doing here, and what can we expect from them going forward? If you have any guesses, I mean, it seems as we just talked with Liz that the prosecution seems to be at the very least. It sounds like they're in a little bit more control of the situation than the defense.
Yeah, I think that's an absolutely fair assessment, right? Right. So far, the prosecution has presented a very clear narrative over the first 3 weeks of this trial. Their view is that Sam Bankman-Fried had access to customer money. He took customer money. He spent customer and investor money on things that he shouldn't have spent customer and investor money on. It's a very straightforward narrative. The defense, in contrast, has it hasn't begun presenting its case. We've heard bits of what their arguments are going to be through the opening statement. That things were, going well until they weren't, that it was all a tragic accident, that, this was a problem, created by the fact that it was a bunch of, somewhat inexperienced young people, roughly my age, Liz's age, who were just kind of building things that didn't quite work out. We haven't seen the actual presentation yet. So far, they've only had a chance to cross-examine some witnesses, and those have absolutely fallen flat. But what we might see is, once the defense is able to begin presenting its case next week, they might have a better, more coherent narrative to express to jurors. And remember, they don't have to prove that Bankman-Fried didn't do whatever he's accused of. They just have to prove that the government didn't prove beyond reasonable doubt that Bankman-Fried did what he's accused of. So the burden for them, so to speak, is a little bit lighter. The other thing is they might just be trying to set up for an appeal. If they think that the jury is not going to side with them regardless, they might want to try and just see if there's any way they can find like technical issues or other problems that they can then bring to an appeal court after this trial is over.
That's a hell of a gamble.
Nick, it's Friday and we got to have a lot of fun. We've been loving your sketches. We spoke about them with Liz when we were trying to get you back. It's just fun. Artistic,
it's not fun. This is serious art.
Serious.
This is
yeah. It's everything. Tell us about your newfound passion, your new job.
Passion is a strong word.
Courtroom sketch artist.
Well, there's times in the courtroom when you're kind of, you're waiting for something to happen. The person asking questions maybe taking a minute to look at notes. The person sitting on the stand is maybe taking a minute to think about stuff like, oh, well, let me throw some, sketches together. Sometimes they're more in detail than others, but yeah, it was really kind of a joke that I just started sharing internally and the CoinDesk Slack. And then they come out of court and find that they're like going viral on Twitter and stuff. And like every other reporter started to do it. And that was, that if I have no other legacy from my time as a journalist, I hope that these sketches are the lasting monument to whatever.
Right. Well, I mean, this might be the record that survives after a nuclear meltdown of the world. But the question I have here is, now, how are you getting the subjects, the images of the subjects? You're sitting in a separate room from them. You're using the camera, the courtroom TV, if you will, to do this.
Yeah, so the way the court is set up, you have a primary courtroom where you have the judge, the jury, the witnesses, the defendant, the lawyers, and the court only allows about 20 people from the public and the press to go into that. Everyone else is funneled to the overflow rooms, where we have to look at, people, everything that's going on the screen. So the screen it's basically 3 parts, and you might have that sketch too, where I kind of like mocked it up. But you have the exhibits on one side, and then on the other side, you have a split screen view of the lawyers and the defendant, Sam Bankman-Fried, and the witness. So it's not high quality. These are, not the kind of cameras, you would expect from a tech company, for example, but they're good enough to get some pretty poor sketches out there, and you can generally make out details. People have faces and stuff. You can't see glasses, maybe, but you can see they have noses and mouths, which is important.
Yeah, one would think. Well, this has been very enlightening, and I think that this is probably one of the most important art projects of the 21st century. And on behalf of art students everywhere, we thank you for your service.
I'll stick to my day job.
Nick, Liz, thanks for joining the show. We hope you both get a break. Take a break while court is on a break, and we'll see you sometime next week.
Have a good weekend.